Welcome to the Observe Day podcast, the show where we celebrate the days that matter. From holidays to meaningful observances, we bring you inspiring conversations, stories, and ideas to make each day count. Whether it's raising awareness, learning something new, or simply sparking joy, this is your space to explore the calendar in a whole new way. I'm your host, Wisdom Okonkwo, and I'm excited to share today's observance with you. Let's dive in. Christian Hurst is a best-selling author, creative director, and storyteller whose work is best known at the intersection of science fiction, identity, empathy, and human connection. He's best known for the Starling series, a young adult science fiction saga that explores belonging, hope, self-discovery, and what it means to search for meaning in a vast and uncertain world. Welcome to the Observe Day podcast, Christian.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
You're welcome. Christian, for someone discovering your work for the first time, how would you describe the Starling series?
Well, it's a young adult science fiction series, and I think what separates it is it's really about it's based on older, like space operas, pulpy space operas, but with more modern themes and characters. It's inclusive and it has emotional realism, themes of connection and identity. And so you might compare it to, say, Becky Chambers in that way, but also it's got sort of the adventure feel of like a Firefly or something like that.
Firefly. What was the original spark behind the Lily Starling?
Well, it's been kind of incubating in my mind for a long time. I've been a creative person since I was very young, and now I have had a successful career in brand marketing and advertising, and I just felt like now was the time to tell some stories, because if I didn't do it now, it would probably never happen. And so, when I was younger, I used to draw, I used to write comic books, I used to make video games, all sorts of expressions of fiction and stories and things that I really loved to create. I never really thought about doing it as a novel. I thought about like being a filmmaker and doing it as a film and like all these other visual mediums, because I'm very visual as an artist. But I've also done a lot of writing. And so I finally was like, what if I just did it as a novel and self-published it? And I wasn't sure if I could write a novel, but I put my hand to it, and it turns out, I was not bad at it. So
when you started writing the stories, did you know it would become a story about identity and connection, or did those themes reveal themselves over time?
The themes were central to it. So when I start a story, I always start with character and themes, and then the story is in support of those things. And so I knew I wanted a fish out of water story with a young time traveler from our time that ends up on a starship. But a lot of the things around, like, a lot of the story grew more out of the themes that I wanted to tell rather than the other way around.
Oh, wow. So when you're writing a story, you start with character and themes.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think for me, that works because I spend a lot of time on the characters. I want them to feel real. And I've spent a lot of time establishing their voice and kind of realistic dialogue and personality and the way that they would interact. And then I spent a lot of time on the themes, the things I want to say. And so then the story just sort of grows out of that.
Oh, what makes this fictional world feel real to you?
For me, it's the feeling of like being alone. I think a lot of times as a young person, I felt a little bit outside of the norm. I felt a little bit different, and sometimes I felt like I was on the outside looking in, and that wasn't a bad thing for me. I think it's a useful perspective as someone who's artistic, because you can observe people and see the way they do things without sort of being too close to it, and it allows you to document it, tell stories about it, make art about it. But it can also be incredibly lonely, and I wanted to talk to that experience in the stories of that loneliness and that sort of longing for connection, ultimately culminating in the promise that if you are true to yourself on the inside, that connection will happen.
You have a background in branding and creative direction, And I'm curious, how has that shaped the way you think about storytelling or the way you tell your stories?
I think that it grows out of the same place. The fact that I like to try to understand how people think and sort of connect with that and help them identify with things. You use that a lot when you're a brand storyteller or a brand designer. And one of the things that has benefited me from my career, other than just the fact that I understand how like marketing works and how design works, one of the things that has benefited me is that I've gotten used to just putting my work out there. I think once people see your work over and over again, and maybe a million people see it and then forget about it the next day, even if it was their favorite thing in the world, they just people move on. And once that happens to you over and over again, it gets easier for you to just put your work out there. And that's, for me, that's part of my process, is you have to get it out there for people to respond to, and then you can sort of iterate and grow after that.
Oh, oh, you have to get it out there and then reiterate it and then make it better. Oh, in branding, you know, symbols matter. In fiction, symbols also matter. How do you think about symbols, imagery, and meaning in your work?
I think that it is the way that people connect to things differently. So, and part of I think as an artist, I don't try to force it. So it's like the way that people see something is the way that they perceive it. So you talk about filters a lot in communication theory, right? And the idea that when you are using a mass communication tool, people, they take in the information through their own filter system. So you can't really control how people receive the work. You could try to
Yeah.
make it so that a variety of people might interpret it the same way, but you can't really control at the end of the day how they see it. For me, that's actually kind of thrilling as an artist, because people might see something in your work that you don't see. And that's actually not a bad thing. I don't try to go around and like sit down next to people and explain, well, this is what I meant when I said this, because I think it's actually kind of neat to see how people process it differently, because that tells me about them. And it also tells me maybe something about myself that I didn't see.
It tells you about them, and it also tells you about something about yourself that you didn't see.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Well, what would be an example of such a thing happening in your writing?
Well, it happens a lot in the creative world. I think one of the things, I'll go to the second book, that I wrote with Lily Starling and the Storm Riders. I was writing about a relationship. Lily and Zen are the kind of core couple of the book series, and there's a moment where they're separated, and Lily's looking for Zen, and there's a moment where Lily actually hooks up with this guy that she's attracted to. And I was like, it was important for me to write that in a way that, like, the Lily's very human and she's very flawed, and she makes decisions that are not always in her best nature. And she made this decision all her own. She wasn't seduced or anything. She like chose to, to interact with this guy, and the result of it was that she and Zen had to work out this messy thing in their relationship. And I was kind of nervous putting it out there, because I was like, are people going to think that, people going to like Lily less because of this? And it was the opposite. People liked her more because she was flawed and because she did this thing of her own free will. And so it wasn't so much of a surprise the way people interpreted it. Well, but I was surprised that I've literally not gotten any negative feedback on it. They were like, universally, people have been like, I really appreciated that part of the book because it showed how human Lily was, and that she's not just like, like, I think a lot of heroines, especially queer heroes in stories and heroines, often like are too perfect, and then they, there's like this thing where they have to be virtuous all the time, because you think that in order for it to be a role model, you have to be perfect, but nobody's perfect, right? And so to show the actual flaws and then how the person deals with those flaws, it's almost more rewarding to live through that with the character and see if they did it the way that you would have done it, or if they did it, differently.
Yeah. What advice would you give to um, writers who want their work to be meaningful but also marketable. Because earlier on you talked about putting the work out there, and if it resonates with people, it resonates with people. But how do we connect creating something meaningful, not just to the readers, but also to the writer? You know,
It's a good question. I think, like I said before, just putting your work out there is a good step, because like it may not be the best thing in the world and people may not relate to it the way that you expected them to, but you'll never know if you don't try, if you don't put it out
yeah.
there. And so for me, I think it's a huge part of the process to get some feedback. But I also don't want to like kill it. I don't want to like overwork it forever. And so I would rather have people experience it and then see if it works and see if it's viable. I do think of my work as a product, because of my background. And so it's like after it's done, it's sort of incubated. I put it out there and then I treat it like a product. I try to sell it with all my, skills and everything. And then if it's commercially viable, that means that people will actually, buy it when it's in front of them. And you have to be honest to some extent. It's like I've put things out into the world where people aren't really interested in them. And it was a pleasant surprise that, the Lily Starling series has been something that people have related to, and it's been a, semi-popular thing. So, so I put more into it, But I don't think I necessarily would have continued with books 2 and 3 if book 1 hadn't resonated the way it did.
You said you don't think you would have continued if book 1 didn't do as well as it did.
Yeah, I think because I have a lot of other projects in mind. So I self-published the first book, and then I was like, I have this other idea I want to try. I want to write this comedy. I had this other idea about Mormon missionaries, this book I want to try writing about that. And so I was kind of just going to put the first one out there and then put that series on hold for a while I worked on these other projects. And I ended up, when it resonated with people and I saw that it was selling, and people were had very good things to say about it, I was like, I guess I should start taking this more seriously. And so that was when I sort of got involved with Outpost Books, and I got the book edited, and I applied for some awards, and I continued writing the series, and now it's sort of blown up into this bigger thing. But yeah, I wasn't sure if I was going to continue with the full series when I published the first one, because I have like a stack of ideas that I've been sitting on for a long time, So
you removed from meaning and marketing the book, connecting together, and you shared how you wrote the first book, and depending on how it did, you went on to write the second and the third book. What part of the writing still challenges you the most?
I think that a lot of the ideas come to me pretty naturally, but then sometimes when I'm actually in the middle of writing out the meat of it, I think that sometimes the characters end up like turning into that they don't interact the way I expected them to. And I know that sounds funny because I'm the one who's writing them, but like they become so real to me that when I start to write out situations with them, I'm like, oh, this isn't working exactly the way I thought it would, or maybe something new comes into my mind while I'm in the middle of it. And so I think the most challenging part is actually getting through the meat of the book, although I also tend to try to do that in a linear fashion and do it as quickly as I can, because I feel like it's more natural if I don't like go back and rehash it over and over again. So I will work on the outline and the like each chapter kind of really outlined and summarized in great detail before I go sit down to like write the whole chapter from beginning to end, because that process, I want it to be very natural. And so the outlining and the structuring happens over a long period of time, and then sitting down to actually write the story, I try to do it quite quickly, actually.
It takes some time for the ideas to come, and when they come, they usually come fully fleshed in a sense, and it's usually just a question of you writing and typing out the story.
Exactly. And I don't know if it's true, but there's this myth that Shakespeare used to write that way, where he would just sit down and write a play from beginning to end, and he would never go back and make any changes. I don't know if that's true or not, but I find that it does feel more natural when I write that way. I try to write from the beginning of the chapter to the end without going back on myself, because then it sort of becomes like I'm second guessing my own work, and if I write myself into a problem, I try to write myself out of that problem instead of going back and changing what I already wrote. It just feels, because like in life we don't get to do that, right? In life we don't get to go back and tweak things so that we have an easier time of it. We have to figure out how to navigate it, and so I feel like that's it just feels more natural at the end of the day.
Earlier on, at the beginning of the episode, you mentioned that when you want to write a book, you think of it in two ways: character and the theme. And I want us to step back a bit, zoom out and say, okay, the whole work you're trying to create, what do you want the legacy to be? What do you think in terms of, okay, this is what I want the collection of my work to be around?
I think that I want it to be something very human. And I think for me, that means that it explores a lot of the different facets of the way that human beings think and see each other. People are complicated, right? And I try not to use labels a lot, but I do call myself a humanist because I think that it helps to sort of people kind of understand what that means. But for me, what it means is that when I see somebody, I try to see them as a human first and not like a checklist of things that you can hate about somebody, right? So when you meet somebody, you have all these preconceived notions. And so I think that's natural. I think that people sort of evolved for safety reasons to, immediately have like a gut reaction when they see somebody. But for me, there are so many things that as humans we have to overcome our like animal instinct, right? I mean, we wear clothes and we go to work every day. It's like, but we're not animals in the way that, that references and so like when you see somebody, treat them as a human first, like baseline, and then later on, and once you get to know each other, if you want to hate each other, go for it. I'm not saying like hate is something that doesn't exist. I'm just saying like you should understand that I think even if it's very uncomfortable, we all have more in common than we have different, right? And so for me, that's sort of the overarching thesis of most of my work is like, you can't just assume that you have somebody figured out just because of like a random assessment that you made of them, even if it's somebody that you really disagree with.
Humanist. That's a new word for me.
Yeah, I think people usually use it to refer to people who are like ethical but not religious. But like for me, it's more about the ethics of being human and just like trying to live. Yeah, I guess it's live ethically without being in fear of a greater power punishing you for for breaking the rules. I don't know.
Thank you for sharing that, Christian. One other thing I want to ask you, creative to creative, how do you handle creative doubt? Do you even have creative doubt?
Yeah, of course. I think we all have doubts. We have moments where we get stuck or we have a little bit of like imposter syndrome. For me, you have to keep putting the work out there. You have to keep there's that old saying, fake it till you make it. I think that for a creative, there's a part of that. But I also just have my instincts and my my career behind me that I know how to do this stuff. I'm pretty confident that like I may not be the best, but I can rely on my expertise and experience, and so I know what I'm doing to some extent. And then I think validation is important. I think there are these moments of like recently I won an EPI award, which is like a major national independent publishing award.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And, and I took home a gold medal, and I was like, I didn't know what to expect, but that was a real moment of validation for me, because there's a lot of awards out there you can enter and varying degrees of whether or not they actually mean anything.
But this was the one that mattered.
Yeah, but this was the one that I was like, if it's a long shot, but if I get a win here, I would have been happy with like bronze for cover design, but but I actually won gold for best first book, which is like,
Wow.
great because it was my debut. And so I'm like, at this point in my life, to be able to have any sort of validation that like I can try something new and I can be good at it it was an important thing for me. And so I'm not gonna like wave it in people's faces or rest on my laurels and say I've arrived, but I also think that I think that moments of validation are real and important because it helps you to move forward with confidence and say, okay, I know a little bit of what I'm doing, and now it's time to grow to the next thing, and I can continue to make this thing better.
Thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you for being honest and open. What are you currently working on now?
Well, I'm still working on the fourth book, which is going to be released in September. There's some editing that needs to be done to get that one ready. And that will be a different experience. It's like book 3 was a little bit heavy and had some darkness to it. And book 4, I think, will be more of a adventure. It's a time travel story. But it will prepare us for the themes for book 5, which will come out next year, which is the last book in this particular YA series. And so I'm really trying to see this through to the end, see the Lily Starling series through. But that's not all I have planned for these characters. There will be more after this series. But I think getting this initial 5-book series done, it's kind of like I don't know, for me, it's like making an entire streaming show all myself. It's like it's a lot of work, to make sure that all these themes pay off and all these characters end up where people would feel satisfied with all of their arcs and everything. And so it's a lot of work, but I'm looking forward to being able to see how the readers react once that story is finally done.
Yeah. Well, where can listeners learn more about your books and also connect with you?
You can find me at Hurst Publishing on Instagram or TikTok, and you can visit lilystarlingbook.com to learn more about the books. You can find me, you can find the books wherever you buy your books online. I'm in a lot of stores now too, and you can really just find me by Googling me. And, feel free to reach out if you want to, my contact information's online. I'm happy to do your podcast or speaking gigs, and that kind of thing. I did a book signing last week, and it's great to interact with people who have experienced the books, and I love it. I love to meet people who've enjoyed my works.
Yeah, I will put the link in the description so listeners can click and go directly to the site. Thank you, Christian. It was good to chat with you again.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. That's it for today's episode of the Observe Day podcast. Thank you for spending your time with us as we explore today's observance. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and share it with a friend who'd love to celebrate life's special days too. Don't forget to join the newsletter at observeday.com/join for more observance stories, tips, and updates. Until next time, keep finding meaning in every day.